All right, so I've got my Anderson easel, and I'm painting on an 11 by 22 inch panel today. This is one of my homemade panels, and I've got my usual palette of colors, and I'm going to be using liquid as my medium, odorless mineral spirits in a brush washer here, and my usual assortment of brushes. Mostly what I use for this sort of painting is a number 8 natural bristle flat, and then a few smaller like synthetic flats, like a number 4 and a number 6. All right, so as usual, I've toned with burnt sienna, and I've decided to put the main wave at about the third, the top third, and a high horizon. It looks like the sun is coming out, so maybe I'll experiment with painting some glare on the water as well. All right, so I usually start by mixing up a color for the darkest wave, and I'm using ultramarine, phthalo blue, a touch of burnt sienna, and a little bit of titanium white, thinning with liquid. And I know I've mentioned this before, but what I'm trying to do is create an interesting random sort of pattern for the primary wave of the composition. And I can always change it so it's not, nothing is set in stone, obviously. And I can sometimes erase little areas of white water. This is like an area where the wave is breaking, and maybe over here as well. I think I'm going to have this line here be white water, but I'll put like a little suggestion of dark water or shadow. Okay, so next I think I'm going to mix a color for the sky, and if I want to include glare, I've got to make sure that the relationship between the value of the sky and the glare is accurate. So I'm going to start with a mixture of titanium white and ultramarine blue, and my palette is a mid-tone gray, so I'm a little bit lighter than mid-tone here. And we'll see how this looks. Okay, I think that's a good value to start with. Okay, so I'm trying to keep the sky fairly transparent so some of the warm tone comes through. All right, I'm mixing up a color for the water at the horizon, and I'm seeing sort of a purple color, so I'm using ultramarine blue, mixing a little bit of this green mixture in, and then also alizarin crimson. It's often surprising how much red there is in seawater. And I'll leave areas where the white water is going to eventually be. All right, so I'm adding a little bit of ultramarine blue and titanium white for the water that's in front of the wave. Okay, now I'm adding a little bit of dioxazine purple and some more titanium white for the white water. Oh my God, that's a little too much purple. Okay, so next I'm mixing a color for the sand, and I usually start with a mixture of titanium white and yellow ochre, and I'll add a bit of dioxazine purple to kind of gray it down. As I mentioned before, I like to gray down using complements. Alright, so I've decided to experiment with the glare on the water, and what I've done is just use a paper towel to kind of erase or remove some paint to kind of indicate where you know, those light portions will be. I'm going to try to focus on keeping the shapes sort of interesting, not having like little specks of light, but more, I don't know, just sort of individual shapes, so there's more of an interesting design. Alright, so for the glare I'm using titanium white and cadmium yellow medium. I may come over the top of this with some cadmium yellow lemon and titanium white, but for starters I just want to, you know, get this paint on the panel so I can start judging the other values, because this is clearly going to be the lightest value in the painting. I'm using liquid, but only a little bit, because I want this paint to stay fairly thick. It seems to be like sort of a wedge shape here. And I'll load the brush. I'm trying to load the brush and make definitive sort of strokes here. I want a little more yellow in there. And I'm not really worried if this painting works out or not. It's more just fun to experiment and try things that maybe have failed in the past. Like, I've had trouble capturing glare. It's really difficult, so it's kind of a fun thing for me to experiment with. And I don't get personally offended if the painting doesn't work out. I always see that as an opportunity to grow and learn. Alright, so what I'm basically trying to do is adjust the values surrounding the glare to make sure that it looks like glare, that it's actually really, you know, has that feeling of brightness. I know that the darkest portion of the painting are going to be these dark portions of the waves here, but I can see already that the broken whitewater could be a bit darker in value, you know, like right in here. I mean, it does feel like it's in the shadow, but I think if it was just slightly darker, it would create more of a feeling of light. And I think the sky could be a little darker as well. Alright, so here's what I finished up with. I did clean up the horizon a little bit when I got home. It looks like it could use a little extra work. It's strange. It looks like the light portion is dipping down, but I assure you it is not. I put a straight edge across it and tidied it up. It's just some sort of optical illusion. If any of you know what that's all about, let me know. As I mentioned, I was after a convincing feeling of light, a convincing feeling of glare on the water, something that I've struggled with in the past. The main approach was to kind of put on the lightest paint and then just keep darkening the surrounding values until it looked convincing. So I'll probably do a few touch-ups on this, but overall I'm happy with it. It came out better than I thought, and I think I'm making progress towards having more convincing glare in my paintings. Here is a close-up so you can see the texture of the paint. Also, another thing I did was I came in and put some dark portions right at the bottom of the waves, and I think that also, you know, helped boost the contrast and make the light seem more convincing. So I think problem solving is one of my favorite things about painting. So I do like to go paint things that are a challenge, you know, and I don't mind, as I mentioned during the process, I don't mind if they don't work out. I just accept that as part of the process of challenging yourself and growing as a painter. So as usual, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. Got a bunch of extra videos on there, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next video.